Aloha and welcome to Inside the Writer's Studio. I'm your host, Isla Allgood. Today, you'll have the opportunity to meet author Virginia Fortner. She'll be sharing a few of her written pieces, followed by Talk Story, where we will find out more about Virginia as a writer. Welcome, Virginia.
Thank you, Isla. These days with marches for Black Lives Matter, I pulled out a short piece called The Meaning of Minority. It was the summer 1989, well into our UH Honolulu Teachers Workshop Week, and I thought it was time to pull the M card, minority card, for discussion. My practical classes were gaining popularity with returning teachers, principals, counselors, and a few parents mixed among the ones simply seeking credits to move up a pay ladder. I passed around newspaper articles on school buildings in repair, statistics with national ratings for schools across 50 states, middle school robotics programs, hydroponic high school gardens, and a history teacher's dismissal dispute. I thought my instructions were clear. Discuss the article as to what role being in the minority may have for its reported outcome. Groups formed quickly along predictable lines. They pushed chairs together toward the same folks they carpooled with since the beginning of the week. In each, a self-appointed leader read the article to an attentive group. Then all was silent. The Filipino counselor looked around her group, eyebrows raised. The Chinese principal urged his teachers, mostly Japanese, to speak up. A Portuguese history teacher raised a hand. I guess we first need to define what's a minority. I looked up past the Hawaiian slippers toward dark-skinned faces turned my way. A new realization came like lightning. I said, I guess in this context, that would be me. Instead of hearing reports on ghetto versus city or Southern versus Northern US attitudes, I stumbled for words to express my epiphany about a middle class education in mid-America forming some just recognized stereotypes about minorities being African American or Hispanic. Neither of those groups was present. It had just dawned on me that I was the only Caucasian in the room as the instructor. 30 or so teachers listened and nodded. Laughter tinkled through the classroom in a true aloha spirit. The next day, I received several leis in honor of my unforgettable learning experience. We moved on to other classroom discussions, this time using dyads, twosomes, who would later join another dyad to make a foursome to compare and report insights. One quiet elementary teacher was odd person out, so I quickly joined her as a discussion partner. Later at break time, that teacher, nearing retirement, slipped up to whisper, "This is the first time a college instructor ever spoke to just me. Thank you." I continued teaching for University of Hawaii for 3 more summers, humbled again and again by what I learned. This ancient culture laid a foundation on which to build new learnings with every return to the islands. Whatever up-to-date theories or teaching techniques I shared with those eager teachers felt meager compared to the wisdom that I received from them. Along a little different line, but still today and what's going on with COVID-19, this poem and the one that follows has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. Alone together. Over Kona coffee, 6 feet across her lanai, I hear, I pray God to punish China for bringing all this virus to the world. My neighbor clasps disinfected hands, entreats, Lord Jesus, come quickly. I cringe. Yet I can see how that is her fundamental prayer. Down the road, Cosmos and Kale beckon as sunlight slants toward another's bordered garden. She weeds around healthy harvest, profuse blossoms, and asks, defining boundaries, what's alive in your little corner of positivity? Ordering negative thoughts clamor and I depart, a forbidden trespasser with challenging questions. On up my lonely road, a van idles in my driveway. White-clad figures, masked and gloved, deliver greens, fruit with, stay at home, Kapuna, you're of that age. Shadows cloud my mind until I nod at their admonition, understand how fear feels that way. Inside, my stomach growls as TV streams. News spouts exponential viral growth, dire scenes of shortage and future want. Warnings, beaches, libraries, churches, parks, all closed, stay home. Governor's decree pressures police to shrill, hurried threats. Yet I can see how legality intends safety. Next door, angry shouts disturb evening air. Deep voices threaten as younger ones cry. I'm reminded of rats repeating maze corridors as unknown ends stretch far ahead. I feel their restless, lost control, grateful I've only me to prod and to bore. When this virus runs its course and we've climbed a new normal, what will we carry with us to see answers not visible today? Benevolence, compassion, love realized, or severed by blame, greed, and fear? I hope to glimpse a dazzling vista yet envisioned. This last poem is along the same lines, and it's called Pandemic Roller Coaster. Clawing back to energy flow after a rough bout of winter flu, my legs fairly twitch to hit the ground running. I choose instead a quiet walk beside a blue corduroy ocean where white sails drift with trade winds. Part of all that is, I lose my identity to enhance the whole of such beauty. Soul dancing, almost floating, up to my car, I meet a policeman, red-faced and frantic. I could fine you $500, jail you for a month. Don't you know? Parks closed, so are beaches, restaurants, schools. No one out without a mask. Go home. Stay there. You're not safe. I drive home, shaking, switch off radio's COVID-19 news, sweeping the world, now our country. Life's screech halts, slowed to a rhythmic, solitary dance. Farmers Co-op delivers garden fresh offerings while I seek diversion. I write tasks on slips of paper. They say clean closet, read, walk a mile. Enough slips to fill a china bowl. I unfold the first day's slip, determined as a child with a new game. Yoga sends me online where Mona stretches and bends from a cruise ship deck above languid seas. I fall asleep on my mat, drifting with that turquoise sea, awaken refreshed and whole in that moment. My telephone shrills, and a friend sobs out biopsy results a continent away. I long to hold her. Inadequate words, then tears come. Another text arrives. Mother, 90, confirmed with virus, father ill. We weigh flying pros and cons, quarantine time, and her own vulnerability. Zoom focuses on neighbors, dear faces hugged in Sabbaths past. I hear urgent heart surgery, lay off 80% workforce, rising death toll, mark it down, and count 2 weeks since I've touched anyone. I wish for a pet. My task bowl beckons, so I open another slip. Wash windows. Why did I write that? I overcome an impulse to sneak it back and draw again. Determined to see this through, I take a deep breath and begin. My hose directs wet splash. Microfibers glide, screens dry in sunshine that plays across my neck. Glass gleams clear and breezes skip across windowsills. I take sun tea to shade along with an avo sandwich fashioned for a goddess living in paradise. This thought comes, it's not a bad place to watch a pandemic pass.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Those are so timely with what's going on. I appreciate that you wrote them and are willing to share. And as you were reading, I was thinking and feeling all kinds of things. And I wondered, you had poetry, you had a kind of a short poetic piece at the beginning, that story about the school and your experience as a teacher. And I know you've written a lot of other types of genres. I think you have a memoir, and do you have a favorite type of writing to do?
I think it's whatever I just wrote. And lately it has been poetry. It seems like the way we're having to live today and the changes that we're making lend themselves to trying to pack a lot into a few words so there are feelings.
And they are. Your poetry is very condensed and powerful. So thanks for sharing that with us. And you've been writing for a while, and I wondered when did you consider yourself a writer?
I think I've scribbled since I was 4 years old, but I don't recall writing anything in school that was memorable. My teachers usually taught me Roman numeral 1 ABC, Roman numeral 2 ABC, outline things, and often I start writing and see where something meanders. So probably when I went to a conference in Wisconsin, I actually was helping with some music for a church conference, but I went to a poetry workshop. And I think the way my poem was received there, it was about a flower garden and the river. Nothing terribly memorable right now, but the way that was received, I think, was the first time when I thought, oh, I guess I can write. Somebody mentioned Emily Dickinson in the whole discussion, and I knew who she was, so that was probably it. If you had asked me this a different time, I probably would have said fiction, because I spent a long time on my first fiction book, At the Edge, and I've always written imaginary kinds of things. And then if you'd asked me since I've come to Hawaii, because I put together my own memoirs for family and bound that, but also with Mike Eaton, I did A Design of His Own, and that was a 3-year labor of love, writing a man's story that needed to be told. So biography is very interesting to me too. But right now it's poetry.
Well, you bring up a good point in that throughout our life it could change. You know, we may feel very much into writing one genre for a period of time, and then, you know, like this, the whole pandemic and what emotions that brings up and experiences, it's calling to you to put it into poetry. And so I think that's really good for people to hear, to know that you don't have to pick something at at 20 or 40 or 60 or 80 and stick with it. It's fluid, you know?
Well, and I think I may be more of a creature of variety than some people. I've read a lot of authors who write very well, but they seem to write only one, and what they write to me is rather predictable.
Yeah.
And it's well written. So this is not the only way to do it, but it's my way.
Do you have, when you're working on something, you know, you have the idea, you start jotting ideas down, then there's the editing process, there's the putting it out there process to the world, there's the sharing it like this verbally. Do you have a favorite aspect of your writing process?
Oh, I think it's always the most fun when you're just getting it out there. By that, I mean just writing all of the ideas down, and the editing I think of as woodshedding, which used to mean you got a licking in the woodshed, I guess. But that's the hard part, the editing. But it's also enjoyable because you hone something and pretty soon it polishes, and you feel a certain amount of pride in it. The hardest thing for me is the selling of it. And in this day and age, it's up to the author pretty much to sell his or her work.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and right now everything's a little more challenging with that. But well, I want to thank you, Virginia, for being here and sharing your work and doing a little talk story with me. And to those who are watching, if you want to know more about the Hawaii Writers Guild, you can go to hawaiiwritersguild.com. There's also a Facebook page open to the public. So thank you, Virginia. And until next time, be safe, everyone. Aloha.
Aloha.